Welcome to The Localist, a conversation with local makers and independent entrepreneurs. I'm your host, author of the Localist book and former small business owner, Carrie Rollwagen. So today I wanted to talk about a way to help prevent burnout, or also to kind of deal with burnout when it happens. This is a practice that's been really helpful in my life, both at like normal times and especially when things were really, really overwhelming and I felt like I couldn't stop throughout the day. And this is the idea of incorporating a Sabbath day into your schedule. Now, a Sabbath day, I do want to say, is typically like a religious idea, and I don't necessarily mean that. Like, it is also great if you want to take a religious Sabbath, but I kind of want to also extend the idea to just saying, like, you're going to take a day of rest every week. So I hope that doesn't come across as um, that I'm taking this lightly, because I think there are kind of two different things. One is like capital S Sabbath that you're taking as like a religious observation. And I don't want to try to take that and say, oh, well, this is just a way to optimize your business performance, because that's definitely not it. But I do think taking a day of rest, whether or not you call it a Sabbath, like maybe a small S Sabbath, can be really helpful. I really started to do this. I think when I started was when I first owned Church Street Coffee and Books. So at that time, I co-owned the store, and my business partner and I were working pretty much constantly. So the store was open 7 days a week, and it was open 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So the hours are different now, but that's what we used to do. But because there were two of us, we each designated one day that we actually got off. So I was off on Saturdays and Cal was off on Sundays. And so, barring some big, huge emergency, generally, if there were emergencies for the store on Saturday, Cal would handle them because I was off. And if there were emergencies on Sunday, I would handle them. And during that time in our lives, like, it was just nonstop. Like, it was the first business that I had owned that was a brick and mortar, that was that kind of business. And we were also working on the floor and ordering things, and things were just wild. And so it felt like I was working constantly. So just having that one day that I knew that no matter what else was going on, like as wild as things got, even if I ended up opening and closing the same day, no matter what, I would have one day that I could kind of just like collapse and actually like rest. And that has become a really, really important thing in my life, because I have a pretty demanding job now also, and I also do a lot of side hustles. So it's been very important to me to know that, for one thing, I will get a break. Even when I have really long days and really long weeks, I know like I will have a break, at least at this point. It's also good to have a time to intentionally just rest and recharge. Sometimes that rest feels active. Like now, I feel like things are a little more balanced in my life. I'm never very balanced, but a little more balanced. So I can kind of like, read something interesting or do something fun. Now, there are also times when I'm so exhausted that I just collapse in front of the TV. But at least I have some time to just rest and recharge. And it also helps to kind of like shut out distractions, to say that every week you will get one day that is kind of focused, that you can really just, we get so wrapped up in just going, going, going. Having a time to stop can be really helpful, and to realize what are distractions and what are just important things that we need to be doing in our lives. Okay, so if you are interested in trying this, I've been doing it for a long time, so I have some ideas of like how to kind of make it work for you. One is to define what work is. So again, if you're taking a religious Sabbath, it's probably already defined for you, in whatever like religious construct that is. So that's going to be different. But if you're saying you're going to take a day of rest, what is rest to you? Like, is it saying like that you can't do any work? So you have to order your food ahead of time. You have to, turn the lights on it like ahead of time. That is probably not work. But, like, there is a big kind of vast difference in what you would consider work. So for me personally, I consider anything that I'm creating, especially like the things that I do for work. So like practicing a speech or writing a story, even if that story is not for work, to me it's writing, so that is kind of a work thing. So I try not to do anything like that. Generally speaking, I try not to open my computer at all. I'm not like super strict about that, but to me, like my computer is almost always where I work. So it really helps me to just not have that open at all. It doesn't, like, as soon as I open it, I'm going to see emails, I'm going to see Slacks, I'm going to see things that I feel like I should be doing. So it really helps me to just stay away from that. But I still allow myself to do some stuff on my phone. I don't like check email and things like that. But those are things that I've kind of developed like through this process. But I'll still allow myself to do things like clean my house if I want to. But also I let myself not do that if I don't want to. So that stuff, that kind of work personally, I'm a little less strict about. So I do try to give myself permission to say no to that as well. But to me personally, when I define work, I'm defining like the things I get paid for. So that a lot of times is going to be writing, strategizing, that kind of thing. That's probably going to look different for you. So, and I also think like you develop this as you go along. So just don't worry about getting it perfect. Just kind of like dive in with some idea. A lot of people will also say they're going to just take a social media fast. That's not what I personally do, but that wouldn't hurt. Maybe I should do that. So sometimes it's like turning the apps off on your phone or something like that. So you can kind of play around with what feels like rest to you. Um, the other thing to decide is when are you going to take it? Again, if you're doing this as a religious thing, that day is probably determined. But if this is kind of like a resting thing for you, maybe this is typically it's probably going to be either a Saturday or a Sunday. Sunday for me, a lot of times, well, when I started doing this, I had to go to work on Sunday because that was my day to be at work. But also, a lot of times I'll do something like go to church or something like that, and that feels like work to me because it's socializing. So to me, that doesn't feel like a Sabbath day activity. That may not be the case for you. So that's something that is kind of like you can play around with that. Of course, like if you work on the weekends, you're going to want a Sabbath day that's not on the weekends. You also, depending on what you do, might want to have a floating Sabbath day, but I do feel like it's more helpful if your schedule allows to kind of have it at the same time every week. It really helps to set a rhythm for the week, and for me that Saturday is really a reset day for me, and it feels like my week starts again on Sunday. And my last tip is if you're going to do this, be prepared to defend it. You will probably be amazed how much pushback you get from other people who even care about you in your life, who are constantly trying to get you to do things on your day of rest that you don't want to do on your day of rest. This is the day that almost without fail, my family will email me and ask me to check my email, even though it's only been 10 years that I've not been opening my computer on Saturdays. Or like to say like, oh, can you write up this thing for me? Or can you look at my resume or something like that? And it's not going to make sense to people. It's not going to make sense to everybody. And I feel like it's best just to kind of let go of the expectation that it will. It's not really important that everybody get it because a lot of times they're just not going to get it. So I sometimes like for my friends and family, I'll say like, "Hey, I'm taking a rest day. I'll look at this tomorrow." Um, but for other people, I don't always say like, I think it would be kind of weird to tell a colleague, like I'm on my Sabbath. It's just sounds kind of judgy, and I don't think that's what we're going for here. So like just kind of block off your calendar with something else. You don't have to communicate everything. You can still turn down an event or turn down an obligation with just another reason, other than just expecting everybody to understand this. So that is something that I do think is important to know going in, that if you are setting this boundary for yourself, you're also kind of setting a boundary for other people. And like in every area of life, when you set a boundary for other people, almost especially people you love, they don't necessarily love it immediately. So again, just know, like, have some ways to respond and talking points. And my advice is just to just say yes or no to the thing they're talking about, and don't try to drag them into a whole explanation of why this is important. Because even though it can be very important to you, it may not be understandable to other people. So I hope this is like a helpful idea For a lot of people, seems impossible, especially at first. And I think we can kind of carve that into smaller things. Like maybe you say like, okay, like after sundown on this night, at least this time I'm gonna not do work. Or maybe I'll work up to taking a day, or maybe I'll try to take one at least once a month. But for me personally, this has just been a huge help, especially because I tend to start too many side hustles. Tend to overwork and things like that. So just having a day where I know I'm going to pull back and just stop what I'm doing has been really helpful. So I hope it can be helpful to you as well. Thank you for listening to Localist Podcast. It's written and produced by me, Carrie Rollwagen. We record here at the Infomedia studios. If you're interested in starting a podcast or a YouTube channel, if you want to have photo or video taken for your business, or even if you just want to record some social media content and some reels, we want to help. Head to infomedia.com and fill out the contact form. Let us know what you want and what you need, and we'll be in contact. We'll help you out. I appreciate all the work from my team here at The Localist. I could not put this together myself, so thank you again to Infomedia Studios, to our showrunner, Taylor Davis, to our outreach manager, who's Jen Tucker, and to Elena Harmon, who is our promotions manager. So until next time, here's to thinking global by acting local. I'm putting small shops before big box.